gonna. Will. And then we'll get going. God, look at this full room. I love this. This is so great. Thank you all for coming. I mean, obviously, I know why you're here, and I get it. Did you know they were all here for you?
No. I mean, actually, the thing is, though, that most of my life is spent talking to cushions and not to people. And, I mean, I like talking to cushions because they always give me the right response. I mean, I'm rather scared now. I'm in front of a lot of people. So.
This isn't what Kit is used to, but I told her that you are a very welcoming and supportive audience. So I know that you will be kind and warm. All right, people are still filing in, but this is great. There are still a few seats. Yes.
Yeah, here.
Up in front. And since I just heard that phone go off, that is actually. Don't worry, I'm not. I get it. But that's a perfect reminder. I don't usually do this, but somebody was so embarrassed during our last talk that their phone went off that I will just ask everyone to check their phones really quickly and make sure they're on silent. Kit, if you could turn your phone off during the talk, that would be great.
Just make sure.
Did everyone get to see Kit's fetching little bag that?
Oh yes.
That is part of. I mean. No,
Seriously. This is what we do for
Seriously.
fine cell work. You know, we work with the prisoners in England for a charity, and it's helping prisoners sort of find another way forward. And we just thought to design these little bags and cushions as well. There are other dogs as well that we've done in cushions and things, and we thought that would be great for them to do in prison, fun things to do, and also great things to buy, and help everybody. Really.
and how is that sold? So how would we?
Oh, there's a website which is Fine Cell Work.
Okay.
And they have a really interesting things, and they've actually worked with very famous artists like Ai Weiwei, and we asked these very famous artists whether they would put their names to some work that the prisoners were doing if they sewed it. And then that was sold at auction at Sotheby's, and made a lot of money for fine cell work.
Cute. I want to put him up on display here.
Yeah, I know, he's rather sweet. Yeah.
Right.
And what it means is that we can then teach them things like upholstery, because lots of jobs they won't be able to do when they come out, because there's always that matter of trust. I mean, we couldn't have lots working in our hotels because they'd be going in people's bedrooms. But to actually be able to do upholstery or to make curtains and things like that, it's a way forward.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. Oh, look, people still coming in. I love it. It is standing room only in the Nicer Auditorium. I love it.
Thank you.
Oh, some PR people coming in at the last minute. Hey, I'll get it. You're busy people. I get it. Yeah. No. Understood. All right. Okay. Well, again, thank you all so much for coming. I'm going to do a quick housekeeping bit, Kit, and then we're gonna jump right in. For those of you that don't know, I'm Dennis Scully. I am the host of the Business of Home podcast, and I'm also the curator of the Dialogues on Design series here at the New York School of Interior Design. And for those of you who might not have been here before, this whole program, Dialogues, is all about raising money for our various scholarship programs, including our diversity scholarship and our pre-college scholarship program, where we hope to introduce interior design as a path for young people from underrepresented communities and who might not otherwise become familiar with interior design. So these people up here before you are people who have very generously donated to make this program possible, and I wonder if we could give them all a quick round of applause for their generous contributions. We're all grateful to all they have done to make this series possible, and their generosity is greatly appreciated by myself and the school and the students. Yes, there is another seat up here. Okay. All right, fantastic. So, tonight, I have the pleasure, you all have the pleasure of being in the company of the incredible interior designer, Kit Kemp. Kit has forged an internationally acclaimed reputation. I don't want to embarrass you, Kit. I know you don't like this part, but for both the unique interiors that she has created through the Firmdale Hotel group, and I noticed that many of you came and quickly shared stories of stays at hotels in London and perhaps New York. And as I say, one lucky winner will be going to the Warren Street, so you have that to look forward to. But also, Kit is an interior designer through the Kit Kemp Design Studio, and we're going to talk about that and the work she does there. She is also a successful designer of textiles, fragrances, homewares. She's also an author. Several of her books are in the back and can be signed later on. She's also a highly respected champion of British art and craft, and she supports a great many craftspeople, which we will also talk about this evening through her work. Will you please join me in welcoming Kit Kemp. So Kit says to me, Dennis, listen, do they know that I actually didn't go to design school? She said, I feel like we should just get that out there first. Let's just tell them, yes, okay, so let's tell them the path that you did take.
Okay. The very first job that I had, well, first of all, when I was at school, I don't think they even mentioned interior design. I mean, I don't think there were all the courses. We're talking a long time ago. And, but I was lucky enough in my very first job to work for an auctioneer. And the auctioneer was not a grand one like Sotheby's and Christie's. He was a very local auctioneer who would go to people's homes, and then, you know, I would be there sitting in the background and sort of taking in all these different things that were bought and sold, from the smallest thing, from little Victorian sort of eyeglass cases to grand old armoires and ancient fridges, sort of things like that, which actually were housed in wood. And then his name was Mr. Shone, and he was a real character, and you'd go down to his kitchen and there'd be pheasants hanging on the door, and it was very dark, so if you weren't careful you'd get hold of this pheasant instead of the door handle and drop everything. But so he was wonderful. But then when I went up to London, to the big city, my first job there, I was so lucky. I worked for an architect called Leszek Nowicki, and he was a very interesting character. He'd come, he was Polish-Russian border that he came from. His father was a doctor, but he was sent to Siberia with his mother and his brothers. And, you know, when that happened just before the last World War. And he made his way with his mother and his brothers to Palestine. And he always used to tell these stories about they would be walking and seeing the same mountain in the background that never seemed to get any nearer. But anyway, he arrived in Palestine and then came to London, and he was either going to be a doctor or an architect, and he decided to be an architect. And I think because he broke all the rules himself, that's one of the reasons why he employed me. And I had a very lowly role of making the tea and standing at the end of a tape measure. You know, they used to have those great big round ones that used to go like that, and so we'd measure up things. And oddly enough, you get to know scale and balance very quickly by doing that. And by sitting in his office and then allowing me to do various things, he actually was my Svengali, in a sense. And so instead of coming to design school, I came up the lowly way. Yeah.
But eventually, he let you do quite a bit, and one day, future partner and husband Tim arrives on the scene. Yes?
Well, he was one of the clients actually, but I mean that was not, you know, I mean it took a while for us to get together. And in the meantime, I did actually then work in shipping as a shipbroker for a very short time, but then came back. And when my husband, Tim, he had a few short lease buildings, and he decided that he would link with the Richmond College, which was an American college, and have students here. So our very first buildings together were for students, and which was great fun because we were little more than students ourselves. So it meant that Friday and Saturday nights was a barbecue in the garden and guitars, and you know, the hotel was there were a lot of people all sharing, and it was a very two-star thing. And then suddenly, when we started to grow up a bit, we thought, let's try and do a boutique hotel, which was a sort of very novel idea. And so we approached about sort of 13 banks, and they all said no except the 13th one. And that's the way we started, and it went from there.
And you joke about the 13th bank said yes. What were you presenting to the bank at the time? What was the concept that you?
Well, I think the thing was that nobody thought a small hotel under about 50 or 80 rooms was viable. Right. So our first hotel had 37 rooms, and they all just thought that nobody would want to stay. They hadn't realized the concept of us not all wanting to stay in a you know, sort of Sheraton type hotel where every room was the same, which was a great thing in its time, because when people were traveling, they had to know that they were arriving and receiving a certain level of service. But when we started in the 80s, suddenly there was this new idea of a boutique hotel, and so we were one of the first ones to actually do that. There was somebody else at the same time, Anushka Hempel, who was also in London, and we were sort of very, very different styles, and we adore Anushka, but that's the time when we were working together.
You did have different styles, very different styles than Anushka. How did you think of your style, and more importantly, how did you convince Tim to let you design?
I don't remember him ever asking me to help or even work in the organization, but I realized that that he was a complete workaholic, and the only way that I was actually only going to see him was to be involved. But I think the funny thing is, working together, husband and wife, you have to have your autonomous areas, and you have to have that respect. And so I just got going and did it. Nobody asked me. That was it. You weren't going to stop me. And I just remember going for the first time into Colfax and Fowler, which was this most beautiful sort of building just on the corner, just by Claridge's, and wanting to make an impression. And their front door was terribly stiff. So when I came through the door, I actually fell over into the place, so which is not the way you want to be, you know, when you're like a student of design in a sense, trying to. But they were very sweet, and I just find out where all these places were, because the most important thing with being a designer is to know that marketplace, to know what's out there, to know who the different sort of textile creators are, who is making the best furniture, what is the style of furniture which is going to be coming forward, how you can realize these things, how you can put them together, how you can match the scale, and how you can make the balance and the whole thread of a building work together.
And how did your sense of how to pull all that together, how did that happen for you?
I don't know. How did it happen?
Well,
we were working with plans. I mean, you know, it has always been. It's been easy for me because of the background with the architect to work from plans, and sometimes these buildings, even if you're working with a Regency building in London, you go in there and you scrape back and you find there's only been like 2 layers of wallpaper. There's been very little done, and then you go down into the basement and there'd be a slate tank where they actually, in Regency times, had kept live fish, you know, before they were going to cook them. And so it's fascinating, to learn about the history of these buildings, but then to not want a pastiche on the past. You want something which is living now. So although I love a lot of very traditional styles, at the end of the day, my building has to be living, and it has to be living now. And equally with the hotels. Sometimes people don't mind seeing someone standing up a ladder, you know, if the place is working, because they want to see the change. They want to know how you're doing it. And the other thing that you have to learn is how to move your building forward without sort of shutting it completely. You know, you have to. It's a living thing, and it's a living space, and year by year, design, almost more than anything else, has to move on. Yeah. And your building has to show that you're right there.
Yeah. When Kit and I were talking about the messages that we most wanted you to be able to impart to the students, so much of what I wanted to share with you was Kit's spirit of just sort of barging in and saying, yes, I can do this, and convincing your husband early on, not that he ever asked you to come and work on the design, but that you just proceeded to go to work and found your way with it, and developed such a signature style. And I know you're very anti-brand, but you found a very bold way of expressing yourself.
I mean, that suited me, but I do think that as a designer, to have what I would call your own handwriting is a very good thing, because it's going to be like Marmite in a way. There are going to be those that love it and those that dislike it. But the worst thing is to not have any view at all on it. And so I'm prepared for people to completely dislike it, but then I just love it when people are as enthusiastic as I am. And working with others, and there are some of my team here, working with others that love what they do is the most inspiring thing, and it keeps me young. So, you know.
So normally I ask how many students there are in the room, and I want to do that first. So let me just see a show of hands. How many students? Okay. So great. Wow. Okay. So that's fantastic. So my next question is, who has stayed in a Kit Kemp hotel?
Yes.
Wow.
That is so fabulous.
That's great. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, has anybody visited yet or stayed at the Warren Street? Okay. Fantastic. All right. So some of you have already witnessed the magic that we're about to share, but many haven't yet. And again, one lucky winner will be going soon. Is your name in here? Did you buy a raffle ticket? Okay, hello. Come late and you didn't buy a raffle ticket. Come on, seriously. Next time we'll get you. But I almost can't wait to just press the button and take people on the tour, because it's just so fabulous. So I mean, just even starting with the exterior.
Well, this was in the middle of COVID, and we had started the building in the pandemic. And Tim, my husband, came into my room and said, what color are we going to, there's outside of the building going to be? And we both sat there, and I said, it's so miserable. Everybody's so glum. I mean, is there no future? Let's just make sure that this building just looks like sunshine. So it's blue skies with a yellow hat on the top. And I don't know why, but they allowed us to do it. I mean, thank you, City of New York. Oh, dear.
Well, and for those of you that have been to the Whitby, just across town, so when Kit and I were first chatting, she said, after the Whitby, I will never do another New York hotel. No. Exhausting. It's right. It was such a production. She swore she'd never do it, but behold.
Yeah, this
the
is
Warren
it.
Street Hotel.
So this is when you come into the lobby itself. And I mean, we love art. And actually taking pride of place right in the center there is an artwork by an African artist called Sane Gateha. And he's called the Bead King of Africa because if you look very closely, this is like a 3D work of art, and it's all made with paper beads. It's a sort of Victorian idea. He apparently came to London to study at one of the art colleges and found this method, and then when he went back, set to work. But we found him very early on now. He's because African art is getting a big following now, and he's had an exhibition in New York, so you know his future's looking very bright. But underneath it is an American sculptor that I've always loved called Wendell Castle, and this wonderful cantilevered butterfly sort of seat made of ash is one of his, and you can get them in bronze and you can get them in wood, but he recently died actually, but I've always wanted his work, and this, I thought, this organic sort of area was perfect, and it works so well beside Christian Mahadid, who's an Argentinian artist, and he's known for his floating basket towers. And so just sitting in the corner there are his floating baskets, which can gently sway. And then just around the corner there that you can hardly see is what's called a skipping stone table by someone called Christopher Kurtz, who is an American designer, and it's just they're like the stones, you know, that you throw like that and they can skim along the water. So that's a skipping stone table, and on it are some fabulous pots by someone called Carol Wainwright, who's in her 90s and makes these wonky pots, and you know they're just absolutely beautiful. And on the right we can't forget Tony Cragg, who's you know, he's a very famous sculptor, but I hope he doesn't mind because he's not taking center stage. He's just a bit off to the right there. And then if you so going through, this is where you get into the elevator. On the left, it's a Joe Tilson, who is... he's like a sort of pop artist from the 70s, and he was sort of eating macrobiotic bread and drinking ginger beer before anybody else. And at the back is a Terry Frost, who's another 60s artist. And we then decided to collage the wing chair in, and it's sort of like our homage to Terry Frost. On the right, we asked Christian Mahadid, who was the Argentinian sculptor and artist, to make a shelving unit for us that looked like a crocodile. And so this is what he did, and it's actually just made of a hardwood. It's really beautiful. And sitting on it are pots by Catherine Cuthbert, who's an English artist, and we just love her work. This is the drawing room, and the drawing room, I wanted this room to just be really comfortable, something sort of quite traditional that you could sit there for hours. You could play on the games table on the right there, which, you know, and have a very serious game. Those are very 50s style chairs, but we've covered them in a Chelsea Textiles most delicious, beautiful embroidered fabric. And Holly Freen's little dogs on the sofa. It's a Maddo fabric there. And this is all about texture in this room. It's just a really lovely room. You just want to touch things within the room. And that lovely stone fireplace. Minnie went to India, so she brought back a couple of horses' heads. And so we thought, well, they'll have to go there. And so it goes on. But actually, you know, the shelves are great because there are all kinds of little things like Mimi's dolls' houses and they're Mimi's birds' houses, actually, and funny little things. And then Celia, who works in my office, makes these little totems. So they had to go on the center. You know, it's like a family. If you work for us, you might be stuffing newspaper inside bowling shoes one day and making some kind of little thing like that another. This is an old sort of cupboard. It's just nothing special. But Tessa Newell is an artist that we know who lives in Sussex just by Charleston, which is all to do with the Bloomsbury group. You know, Vanessa Bell Duncan Grant lived there. Virginia Woolf was her sister. And she works in that style. So as a little sort of foretaste now for Kips Bay, because we're doing a room at Kips Bay, we've asked Tessa to come along, and so she will be doing some work within our room there, which is really fun and nail-biting. Yeah. Oh, and here another view of the room, and on the right are works by a lovely wood carver that we found in the Isle of Man in England called Henry Neville Wood. And Minnie, my daughter, asked him to do sort of sculptures of famous explorers, predominantly women. And so there's 3 of them sitting here. I mean, they are just wonderful works of art. This is just when you come into the lobby. On the left above the reception desk is Zigzag, which is one of our latest wallpaper designs with Christopher Farr. And I mean, I love the work of Sean Scully, the artist Sean Scully, who actually works in horizontals, but this is a bit zigzaggy. But he was, you know, the inspiration for that. And Gareth Devenall-Smith is a sculptor who also makes lamps and designs them. And so we said, right, Gareth, get going big this time. And so he's done a sort of 20-foot installation over the bar and this sort of horizontal sort of crescent moon just as you come in the front door. And over the bar that you see, that's Gareth's work there. It's long and it's suspended. I had been to Venice to the Biennale the year before, and I saw some wonderful work by Basilitz, which is, I mean, he's the most fabulous sculptor, but there's no way, A, that we could get his stuff to suspend above our bar without bringing the entire ceiling down. And so we just said, Gareth, you know, get going and see what you can do. So it's very exciting. This is one of his largest works that he's done. And the sad thing is that he's now going to get so popular and so famous that we will never be able to use him again. So that's another reason you just have to keep finding these fabulous people all the time. On the walls in the bar here, we've just got boxes. And they act like shelves. You can put wine bottles and things there. But literally, they are just wooden boxes. So you can just paint them, which is what we've done on the inside there with just various sort of abstract designs. And it's just like any collection. When you get one, it's interesting. If you get a whole collection, it then becomes quite fascinating to look at. Joe Fan is another artist to the right there. There are collections of keys coming down the wall. And just some of our fabulous fabrics, you know, that we just love to use. That's a Pedroso and Osorio, and then leather, because it lasts so well for at the bar. Yeah.
So, Kit.
Yeah.
Speaking about all of these different artisans and artists that you work with, tell us how that first began. Tell us how you got started. You work with so many incredible artists today, and everybody's work is layered on top of another, as you see, and it's really spectacular. But how did that get started for you?
Well, with these projects, they're not done in a day and a half. I mean, you're talking about a span of, you know, several years. So when you're commissioning artists, you do have the time, and it's important to have that time, A, to discuss the space that it's going to go in, so you can get the size right, where it's going to be, and there's always a to and fro. You will have an idea in your mind of what you want, but when you're commissioning an artist or a craftsman, you have to give them their head. You have to not put them in an arm lock, because if you do, you're not going to get the best of their work, and you're not going to be satisfied. So you have to first of all be sure that you like the work of someone you're going to be dealing with, that they are someone that you can rely on for a start, you know. And actually, you know, at the schools now and at the art colleges and sculpture, things like that, they do teach their students to be business people as well, and that is very important. But of course, you know, I've been around for ages now, so I've got quite a few friends, and so that I do have my favorite people that I can call upon. But it's just the excitement of actually having an idea and finding out that the realization of that idea several years later is better than your original thought. I mean, that's a success all around, and that is what you want to do. Because you can't do it yourself. You have to rely on others, and you have to be able to work as a team. You have to inspire other people to want to work with you. And that isn't just these big craftspeople. It's the people putting the covers on your banquette seating. It's the people who are putting the carpets on the floor, because if you're asking them to come in at 4 o'clock in the morning so that somebody can sit and have breakfast on your banquette at 7:38, they're not going to do it if they don't like you. And so that you're democratic. You're never sort of lady so-and-so who comes along and says, just do that, da-da-da-da, like that. I mean, I do have sergeant majors who work for me, and they're great. But at the end of the day, it's a team, and you've got to be aware that your craftspeople doing, you know, just whatever they're doing are as important as you are. You're only as good as all the people that are working for you.
Yeah, I don't know. That's such a great point. Okay. That seems to resonate in the room. Kim, look at that beautiful Pierre Frey, wallpaper. I mean, really, seriously. I mean, come on. So beautiful. We have another shot of it here, Kim, for you. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that.
We're not shy of hanging a few pictures, though.
Sure, she put some art over it. Okay.
Yeah, no, it did. The funny thing is that this room, before that wallpaper went up, which is by Pierre Frey, it just looked like a white, sterile box. And then suddenly, as this started emerging around the rooms, it became very exciting, and it immediately had character. And, you know, when you're working with a new build, to actually arrive in the building, and people have said to me when, you know, they've come, not necessarily at Warren Street, but at other buildings, did you have to do very much here? And I usually say, no, I didn't really have to do anything. And what they don't know is that it's a new build and there was nothing there. So, you know, it's part of the secret is to actually make it look as if it's meant to be, and in its way.
Well, and now somebody came up before we got started, and the topic of maximalism came up, and Kit does not see this as maximalism, okay? How would you describe this instead?
It's kind of colourful.
Yes.
And it's colourful and it's curious. And what I want it to be is that you have to go into the room several times, and it's still an exploration, because there will be things that you didn't see the first time round that when you go in second and third, suddenly you see it again. And you're seeing it in different lights. You're seeing it very early in the morning on a frosty day, on a day where it's thunder and lightning, where because everything in New York is much more intense than London. And to me, I'm always learning, because I'm seeing everything I'm doing in a different light, and I'm living with it. You know, I'm not walking away afterwards. It's fine if you can put beautiful silk on a chair, but you come back in a year's time and the thing is threadbare. So I'm always also thinking of how good it's going to look in, you know, a year, 2, 3 years' time. And today I was going around with Isabella, who works for me at the Whitby Hotel, and it's interesting, isn't it, Isabella, just to see how things are wearing, how it's looking, and you know, we're forever learning.
And you're forever updating and freshening, and I mean,
all the time.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I love. I mean, it's not work. I wouldn't do it if it was. Yeah. So in this this is, you know, the back of the restaurant there, and we've got, yeah, it's really nice. We've just put these little kind of lips on the back of, but mainly I did it because it was getting slightly busy, and I just felt the back of these clemmy chairs, this is a new chair that we're doing, just needed to be a bit softer and just not so much going on. And then, you know, that central height where you're putting, you've got a chandelier above it, and then you've got a higher level where you can put all your beautiful pots, this time they're by Daniel Reynolds. And on the wall, either side of that mirror are 8 really fascinating drawings of Sèvres porcelain. And before the artists and craftsmen made the Sèvres porcelain, they were drawn and then they were put in workbooks. And we found some of these workbooks which even date back to 1824. And so, I mean, it seemed like a relevant thing to put in a dining room, to see all these beautiful Sèvres drawings that are done. I mean, they're just works of art in themselves. And very often it's taking things that you don't expect and then framing them in such a way that they then become works of art. We've done it with just skeins of different old silks and beaded 1920s bags and things which we might see later on. Yeah. And here at the back is our orangery, which spreads across both. It's a similar sort of layout as the Whitby itself. And Martha's pots this time have got a sort of clementine orange behind them. And those we've got these beautiful chandeliers are like magnolia leaves made of bronze by Cox London. And Joe Tilson's there. And then Knight's Tale, which is one of our new fabrics with GP&J Baker.
Which we'll see more of in just a little bit.
But, and here are little Martha's pots. So Martha Freud just makes things in porcelain, and there's a hole underneath, and then we light it from within. And so I said, Martha, you're the craftsman. Don't worry about anything technical, like how do we light it. You just make those pots, and I can organize the rest. And, you know, that's the way I can also work with some artisans as well, you know, because sometimes it can be kind of boggling when people are asking you to think about so many aspects. And with Martha, who in our last hotel did about 45 pots, all with landmark buildings and bridges of New York. And I promise you, if I tried to make little pinpricks and did it of, you know, whatever building I wanted to do in New York, you wouldn't recognize it. But Martha, being the artist that she is, they just look amazing. But this time, with our sort of our organic feel, we wanted to have different mushrooms and different fungi. And so every single one is just a different fungi and different fungus. So I'm waiting for some mushroom expert to come along and tell me all the names. But then we've had fun because we've just added little fairy or some man with a little wheelbarrow, and you've got to go along and just find them. And then at this end of the room, we've got Robina Jack's fabulous plates. And Robina Jack lives in Essex in Wivenhoe, and there are 3 or 4 very good artists living there. So it's always a treat to go and see her. But, I mean, I just love the lyricism. And, you know, we've just started doing pottery classes, and I'm just taking my team in London to pottery.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's another fabulous sort of charity that we're involved in, which is called Fired Up 4, which is actually, instead of getting all these young guys kicking, you know, sort of milk bottles in the street, if we can get them into places where they can fire and make pottery, it's such a fabulous thing. It's a wonderful thing to do to make pots. So we've just been doing smaller little stem vases and things like this. But when I see Robina's pots, and you don't know what the colours are until it's fired, until it comes out. And she's just a genius, I think, actually. And as well as that, it's that sort of folk art, wonderful feel. And with folk art, it can go 2 ways. It can either look childish or it can look just right. And I do think that Robina is so incredible in the way that she does it. So here, we've just had a collection. And I bought the dresser from, actually, she was a travel agent, an American travel agent, and she was just saying, you know, I inherited it, but it's too big, and I didn't know where it was going to go, but look how it fits in that space. I mean, it's got that much to spare at the top. It's perfect. Yeah.
But as Kit was saying earlier, you miss so many of these things when you first go through. So you've got to sort of circle back around and walk up to these sweet plates and platters, and each illustration is just the sweetest thing you've ever seen, and they're all just so darling, and they're in the back of the dining room, and you've just got to.
And it's a blue sky always.
Yeah.
You know, we've painted the ceiling turquoise. Don't forget about your ceilings; they can sometimes be a lot of fun. And, well, this is a Pierre Frey fabric and called Rangiroa. And I just think it looks very Matisse. It looks, it looks like a collage thing, and we love collage. And a Seema Krish cushion underneath, which actually has little stitching to it. And I think it's Emily Mordy, beautiful, exquisite little artworks beside it. And we have the best framer called Marcus Wells that I've worked with for years. And we both get very excited about frames as much as what's inside the frame. And then we had old mirrors, so we had them painted. And the little light on the desk is actually balustrade, the patterns where you'd put in the concrete, and this is the wood. And so we just made them into lamps, so everyone is different. So it's really quite fun. And the picture over the fireplace is actually a design for a carpet originally, but we thought it looked very decorative, yeah. And another angle, so, the defining factor actually at Warren Street are the outdoor spaces. And we've landscaped them to within an inch of their lives. And they'll only get better and better as time goes by, because the beauty of a garden is that if you leave it, it's carrying on growing. And I always say that with a room, as soon as you shut the door, it dies. It needs people. And so homes need people. They need life. They need dogs. They need everything like that. And if they're not loved, and if they're not looked at, and if they're just left, it might have the most beautiful artwork in the world. It might be the most glorious place, but it dies. So that's why we like hotels, and full ones.
Well, and I wonder what you were, so you had 2 hotels in New York already. This is a very different neighborhood. But what were you most mindful of? What were you most conscious of wanting to do differently, perhaps, in this hotel than you had done in your other hotels in New York? Or how were you thinking about it?
Well, we wanted to be part of the hood. You're part of the neighborhood. And with our size and with our scale of hotel, you want to feel a part of it. And it was so lovely at Warren Street, because up the road there's a nursery. So at 3:30 there's a whole lot of strollers, with babies going by. And before we opened, we had brown paper on the windows. And as soon as we took down the papers, we had people sort of looking in the window like this, which is so fabulous. And then these strollers started coming in with their mothers at 3:30. And I love the fact that it is, you should be getting all your friends, all your neighbors, right, everybody else, they should embrace it. And if you can do that, which during the pandemic, at the Whitby, at the Crosby, I think when there were floods there, we were the only ones with a generator so people could come in and have a shower. At the Whitby, it was the one place that you could still find a coffee. And so then you're loved by people that are in the area. And at the end of the day, those are the ones that are really important too. You have to be a part of the place that you're at. Yeah.
And they become your regulars, and they sort of...
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope so, because, if I go and stay in a hotel, I don't want to feel vacuum-packed away from everybody else. I actually want to feel part of that community, and I want to feel, I might be coming in a jumbo, I might be arriving in a taxi, I might be very thoughtful of being secure and safe, but at the end of the day, I still want it to be an adventure.
Yeah. Now, I tend to get lost with you a little bit, and so I'm going to try and be conscious of time, because I want to leave it open for questions, and so I deliberately didn't get into a whole big long conversation at the beginning, because really I want to leave it to your questions, to what you most want to hear from Kit. But I did want people just to be able to drink in the Warren Street Hotel and have Kit just regale us with all of these fabulous things. But looking at the time, I want to... Oh, this is the outdoor space. I want to just jump a little bit ahead, because I want to, oh God, and I mean, right? Yeah.
Don't you love those cushions?
And
they're so much fun. Yeah.
And the sofas are all covered in the fabric that then goes into the bedroom on the headboards. It's just honestly, stop it. Really? Yeah. Yeah. But I want to get to this Westchester project, because I want to show a residential project,
okay,
right? With you bringing your sensibility to the lucky family in Purchase, and their spectacular entrance way. And
now we're talking about clients that And first of all, you have to get to know them, you have to like them. And very often between husband and wife, you'll have a wife who wants her house to look like town and country, and you'll have possibly the husband who just wants it to be a party house. So, so you have to arrive at something which everybody is going to love, actually. And also, very often, people will do their own houses and they don't need decorators, but it will be when suddenly this was a lovely young couple, gorgeous, and but this was a very grand house, and it was a very big house, and you know, they were thinking, whoa, what are we going to do? I mean, you know, you came in the front door and this was all marble, the floor was marble, and literally it echoed. You know, I mean, you'd say, honey, I'm home, and the whole thing would kind of echo. And it didn't feel like home. So the first thing we did actually was just get some Indian seagrass on the floor. So because the acoustics are so important within a space, it was very, very large. And then again, this organic feel. And Sebastian Cox is a good carpenter. So he made the center table, Daniel Reynolds pots on it. And we did this during the pandemic. So actually sort of ordering things from Bohemia or wherever, like this lighting, you know, it's a double height coming through. So what do you do? You can see it. So that's upstairs and then it goes down. And, you know, this can look extremely elegant and beautiful, but at the same time, if it's party time, you can have all kinds of lights flashing. So it was just a really fun thing to do. And you're working with the architecture of the building. It did have this balustrading, but we actually took it down by verdigreeing it and making it look like bronze.
I'm just going back to this. So that,
yeah,
you know,
when we first got there, the fireplace which is a Tony Ducardo, wasn't there, and it was like plastic rocks that went all the way up, so they had to go. And we put in Martha's pots, but and you can say we've done this before, but it was such a lovely thing because I could say to the couple, now what are your really memorable sort of memories? Where do you think of and have wonderful memories where you met, where you've been together, what you've done? And so they gave us a list of however many, 3, 4, 5, well, anyway, all that. And then, so we then got Martha to actually then put the little diagrams and they went onto the pots so that when you look at this wall, it's actually your history together of the couple.
I mean, is that the sweetest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was really sweet to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, for the wife, we had the beautiful sort of traditional tapestries, and for the husband, the Palladinos, and they all work together. That actually is a Botero painting on the wall, which was one of theirs. But we've managed to sort of put a Colfax and Fowler type feel with more contemporary things, and a lively rug on the floor, actually, by the rug company. And Paola Navoni shelving within that space. And it's interesting to have shelving where you have inbuilt pots within it, and we could have the colours whatever we felt. We designed it. And to get the room suddenly feeling as if it wasn't brand new, and to actually have a room where you wanted to sit in for hours on end or to entertain and just feel comfortable.
One of the things I love about Kit, and so many designers don't want to share their resources, but Kit's practically caption credit after caption credit for every image.
But you know what? You see, I think design is like a kaleidoscope, and the fact is that, I mean, I've heard sort of Ralph Lauren and one of his top designers say, I can tell everybody where I get everything in this room, but it doesn't matter. If they did it, it would look different.
Exactly.
I mean, everybody just... I did something for Contemporary Applied Arts, which is an English sort of crafts people all together. And we were having an exhibition, and the crafts people were either silversmiths working in wood, working in pottery, working in fabrics. And I said, look, everybody is going to do a 10-inch plate, and it doesn't matter if it's made of wood, of pegs, of plastic, of whatever, 10-inch plate. And we just put them all on one wall. And it was like 130 of them. And it was so fascinating to see them all together, all different, everybody's different skills all together. It was a real joy to do. Yeah. This room wasn't easy because there was a staircase going behind there, so you didn't have the same alcoves on both sides of the fireplace. So just to try and make it work so that it felt very comfortable, so it felt like it was meant to be, we mirror back the shelves on the right-hand side, but we just had very beautiful sort of cabinets that we bought for them. And nice artwork, always our baskets, can't get away from them. Oh dear. And this we did for them. This was a wallpaper called Papillon. And so it's just a very romantic, very formal dining room that it was theirs just only for them.
So Kit, what is the biggest shift of gears, if you will, from working on your hotels to working for a residential project like this? How do you have to think differently? How do you approach it differently?
I mean, that's a very interesting question because whoever you're working for is going to be very different. But first of all, they're not going to come to me if they like beige. I mean, so they have to be aware.
You get that message, right? Yeah.
They have to be aware of a certain style that we have. But nevertheless, everybody has to feel at the end of the relationship that they love it, because I wouldn't want anything less than any client I had not absolutely feeling the magic of it, actually. Yeah. And so you are working at a slightly slower pace. I do like clients who are decisive. I mean, I do want them to be able to say yes and no and not sort of that does help. But apart from that, we've just had the most fabulous clients, and I've loved working for them, and I learn so much from them every time as well. So, yeah.
And do you find that they've so recently I was talking to Vicky Charles, who used to do a lot of the Soho House designs, yes, right? And so her first client was George Clooney and his new wife, because they had seen Soho House and they said, oh my God, we want to hire you to do our home. So do people come to the hotels and say, oh my God, wouldn't it be a dream to get the Kit Kemp Design Studio to come? And is that often how people are coming to you? Or?
Yes, yeah. And very often, yeah. That's how they will come to us. And so we're lucky enough to be able to choose our projects, and also because we are quite busy with our collaborations as well. It's not the major part of my business, but it's one that I feel is so very important, and it's so important to get it absolutely right as well. Yes. Yeah, I love to meet the clients. It's so important. But very often, there are NDAs, so then you're not allowed to disclose anything about what you have done, and that's such a shame because you're desperate to show it. And we were talking, Dennis, like we want to have some designers club where we can just show on our phone what we've done, because we're not allowed to show anything else, and sometimes it's our best work.
Exactly. So somewhere there's going to be a salon. Yeah. Just iPhone images, and it's a quick scroll, and then they go away. But I wanted to jump to this just because this is such a sweet
it's so cute,
space.
Isn't it?
Yes,
yeah.
It's darling.
It just came off a whole nursery. I mean, hey, it was the most beautiful nursery because it was called Lantern Parade, and we actually did a whole mural around the walls of children, carrying little lantern balloons all the way around the room. It was so divine. And then they had a tiny little room, which was actually going to be a kitchen off it. And then they said, no, can we just have a little sort of bunk bed and everything else? So we made it into this wonderful little sort of, I want to go and sleep in there too.
Me too.
It's so nice. Oh, this is part of Lantern Parade going around the room.
Okay, so you mentioned collaborations.
Oh,
so
right. Okay.
This is,
quickly.
right. Yeah. So we should tell people that some of this is upcoming, yes?
Yes. It's just coming out now, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is GP&J Bakery.
Yeah, so we just put the room together, so just to see how everything works. And so we've got Rabina Jack's plates on which is one of our fabrics going there. One of the weaves, some of our stripes are incredible. This is worlds apart. And then Bunty is on the ottoman there, and potato print, which is on the wing chair, and then Knight's Tale on the curtains. And you can see Knight's Tale here. And then the red on the walls is one of the plain linens that we've done as well to go with it. And details again of worlds apart and potato print. And here you can see just little beadwork and skeins of silk, which we've then framed, because one of the first meetings that I had with Anne Grafton and Wriggle Room on the lampshade, one of the first meetings with Anne Grafton, who is the creative director of GP&J Baker, was so wonderful, because we'd get together and then show our little treasures that we'd found, something which was really inspiring us at that moment. And so it meant a lot to us when we put the first of their rooms together for them, to actually use the things that we'd found in our little treasure boxes and then frame them. But actually the thing that I love here are, these are the 6 colorways of Knight's Tale that we then got framed to go on the wall. And Tall Trees, that is one of our famous designs, we turn blue, and it looks like blue Delft. It just looks so wonderful. Bunty at the front, Knight's Tale. Wild One is the weave at the back, and Rabina's dinner party. And over the fireplace is, that is a fabulous desk there by someone called Robert Field. And he is the most fabulous craftsperson. And, I love his desks. You just feel that they can slide, and then you pull the drawers and
Can you feel the enthusiasm?
Yeah,
Sorry
about that. I just
little
love his thing.
She acts like she's never seen this before. Oh my God, that desk. That's what's so infectious about, she's just so enthusiastic about everything. It's magical, and why not? I mean, look at layer after layer, but it's not maximalism, okay? I want to make that clear.
Not at all.
Okay? No. I don't know why you people think that. But no. And just,
Oh, that's one of our lamps there that we've done.
Oh,
you can see the desk there. It's so beautiful, so beautifully made. Yeah.
So sweet. Okay, I wanna jump to. Oh my gosh, stop.
That's Clodagh.
Yes.
Clodagh over the mantelpiece.
Yes.
That's an Irish water spaniel, and probably the most important thing in the room. I love her.
Now, I want to open it up for questions, because I realize the time, and
everybody's got to go home.
I'm keeping everyone. So, do we have mics, or do we? Okay.
You just have to shout.
All right. Well, do the best you can. Yes, in the back.
Thank you.
Sure.
And also, anecdotally, I want to thank you for the Crosby Street Hotel. During COVID, I was up staying at night. I really appreciated splurge of going to that hotel because of the safety.
Hang on, I can't hear.
Oh, she's thanking you for the Crosby Street Hotel.
Oh,
so during
right,
COVID,
okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I really appreciated splurge because you're quite the community and the safety, but the beauty of it.
Oh.
It was so incredible during COVID, and the cosmetics, the eucalyptus lavender scent. When I smell that, it brings me back to that moment in time. But my question for you is, you clearly have your ear to the ground with the global artisan community, and one of the things that has become more of a thinking point for me is that you're starting to hear of some artisans and like some ways of craft dying out, with rug weavers, for instance, in Northern Africa, it's a dying trade because maybe these individuals are going to more urban centers and making more there. So my question is there anything that comes to mind for you that we all can try to support or keep our eyes out, to make sure that things don't die away?
Well, there used to be wonderful embroideries coming from China, and really Vaughan used to do the most gorgeous ones, and also Chelsea Textiles. And then computers came along, and there were certain times of the year when they were doing their embroideries, and then they were going out and doing the harvest and then coming back again. That's gone now. I mean, that has died. And it's so true. There are so many crafts where it is important. And for us in our business, wallpapers. I mean, I go up to Accrington in the north of England to a company called Surface Print, which is like 3 generations, and they've got, you know, the earliest sort of block printing through to, you know, sort of stamping on cork and things like that. But it's so important that those don't die out, because the thing is that the craftspeople and the people working in the factories do not know what they know. You know, they take what they know for granted, but I mean, I can talk to them about a depth of color and how to make it not look too flat, to look as if you're looking back into it. I can't do that. I have to ask their advice, and they'll say, oh yeah, right, we'll do that. And, but the fact is that if it misses a generation, because they're a father to son, it's the same with potters. You meet a grandfather, the father, his wife, the children, they're all potters. If it starts losing a generation, then it's almost gone. And so it's absolutely vital that we keep those things going. And that's part of the reason that I love going up to Accrington and all these places, and to actually just, yeah, be inspired, really, yeah.
Okay, now I see we've got microphones around the room, so, okay, right over here, yes.
Oh, I get a mic.
Yes.
Oh,
Now
fancy. Thank you. This is wonderful. This might seem like an odd question, but relating to the hotels, how do you find people to maintain the hotels? Who does the cleaning of all these wonderful, beautiful pieces? It's like you said, it's not the Sheraton, it's not cookie cutter. How do you maintain these places?
Do you know, it is the bane of my life. Because, you know, it's all about maintenance at the end of the day. It truly is. And my housekeeping teams are like gold dust. They are treasures. They are gems. And I love it when I come and stay at the hotels and I'm talking to housekeeping and I'm meeting Indira and I'm meeting Nubia and I'm meeting everybody there. And I feel as if they are part of the family, because without them, my rooms just wouldn't survive. And I mean, we were going around today and I was just saying, you know, this housekeeping here is quite incredible. I mean, it's just amazing, and they need awards. They truly do. I don't know anything more to say than that. And if they can sew, if they can mend, so much the better, yeah.
So Samantha, right behind you is a woman who wants to ask a question, so you can, yes, there we go.
Thank you very much. I took a lot of notes, amazing. This is great. One of them that touched my heart, you said you're only as good as people that work for you. So my question is, our team is growing, Diana is part of it, and how do you keep people inspired? Like, let's see, listening to you already recharged. Okay, I'm ready to rock and roll tomorrow and come with new ideas,
aren't you
right?
more excited about being a designer today, right after this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so how do you make people want to stay and grow with you together and become part of the family?
Well, you know, part of the reason why we've got 3 hotels in New York is for that very reason, because you have to be able to, when you employ people, they have to feel that they can grow with you. It's so important. And of course, so we've got the UK, we've got London, and we've got New York. Okay, we're not all over the place, but those. And we try and always promote from within. And with our housekeepers, they will go from one building to another, and then they will train also, because the training is vitally important. But it's so important to actually keep our people on the move, to actually feel that, you know, they could start off by filling the minibar and they could end up by working in management. And there's always that way forward. And that is something which is so important for our managing director, our head of operations, to be involved in. In fact, all of us are involved in that. Yeah.
Yeah, so important. Okay, yes. We've got 2 up here. One
Oh, there's
here and
one
one here.
too. Yeah, sorry.
Hi.
Hello.
2 questions. First, which is your favorite hotel? And secondly, any new cities on the horizon?
Well, I can't possibly have a favorite. Can you imagine?
Like
because
children?
everybody from the other
Who's your
hotels
favorite
would
child?
say,
No, I'm just kidding.
No, because they're like my children, and so you know you can't have a favorite. And yeah, and there are just different things that I love within the different hotels, actually, and the guests. I mean, I can look at the guests and say, oh, Dorset Square Hotel. All right, oh, Covent Garden. Yeah, Charlotte Street. And the Whitby, Crosby. And, it's so interesting. And somebody saw someone wearing +4s with a dog coming out of Dorset Square Hotel, and they said it could only be coming out of the Dorset Square Hotel. And, so we've got these kind of caricatures. And very often if we're redesigning and doing something, we'd say, oh, yeah, that's really Charlotte Street. that's got a real feel to it. And so it's fun doing that, yeah.
Now, there was something...
Oh, new cities on the horizon. No, I've just finished here. I mean,
exactly.
This is
a little recovery time is needed from the Warren Street.
The other thing is, we're never going to be everywhere because I can't do it all everywhere. These are all my little treasures. The hotels are my treasures, and they can't be mass-produced, not really. It would have to come under a different title, a different name. And, we're always being asked, and I'm always saying, no, please, no. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so.
Okay, my question is, I'm fascinated by your frames. The first time I was ever in one of your hotels, I walked, of course, I'm a designer, but I walked to every single painting in your hotel, and I was just mesmerized. So do you design the frames as well? Or
no, I don't.
do you find
No, I find the artwork, and then Marcus Wells, that I've been working with for, I don't know, the last sort of 30 years. The funny thing is, a wonderful thing about growing old is that people are always the age when you first met them. So to me, Marcus, Marcus is still in his in his 20s.
He's a kid.
I mean, yeah,
Yes.
but he must, if I've been working with him for 30 years, he must be older than that. But anyway, so Marcus comes in, but he's still got this enthusiasm, and he'll say, Kit, I've just found these old planks, and I've just found these old bits of bridles. We've got to use them. We've got to do this, that, and the other. And I mean, that's really what I feed on. It's the enthusiasm and the love of what people are doing around me. And I mean, the frames are often worth more than what's in the center of the frames. But I don't know. I mean, it's the whole thing together. It's just, I love it. And I never get tired of hearing different ideas and the way that we can do it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get you a mic.
Hi, it was great to meet you before. I love your work, been following you for a while. I did want to ask you, I think it was when you were describing the Whitby Suite a long time ago, you did a video. Somehow those videos have disappeared, by the way, but you talk about how a lot of times a room has to have something big, almost ugly. And I think it was maybe an armoire or a woman's head that has like beading around it. And I've tried different things. What happens when, you commission things or whatever, and you get this thing in your house and it doesn't work? Do you just ship it off to one of the other hotels, or how do you deal with, I'll be like...
There are no lesser hotels. She just made that clear.
I'll find something that, now I reconsign, I'm like, okay, I have a place now that I can actually sell it, but... there are times I brought it home and it's something I can't return, and I think it's going to be perfect. It's going to be that ugly, interesting thing, and it's just ugly and interesting. Have you had that where you commission something, and then when you get it, and you look in the space and you go, that doesn't work? Does that happen to you? Please tell me it does.
Well, there have been pieces that just haven't worked, or maybe they've warped or something like that, and they shouldn't have done. And my secret was that I used to have a nanny that was about 18 stone. She was just huge, and she could pick up anything. I used to have this stroller with 2 children in, because they were both born quite close together. So she could pick up anything. And what I would do is, if it came from an antique shop, she would actually stand behind me and she would bring it in, single-handedly. And Susan, the nanny, with this massive piece of furniture in her arms, you know, and then she would plonk it down on the floor in the antique shop, and there'd be the antique owners, you know, of the shop saying, yes, you can't bring this back, it's certainly, you know, you certainly can't. And then they'd take one look at Susan and they'd say, oh, all right. I'm not joking. You need to have a bit of, you know, sort of weight behind you. Yeah.
That's the trick. Okay. Anybody else have a question? Because we, yeah, yes? Oh, no, Samantha, great.
I loved your story about the little pouch and using some people in prisons and things. And I think to the whole artisan thing, whether it's something like that, but I know certainly in this country, there's, and in the Northeast, New York, Connecticut, whatever, there aren't as many upholsterers anymore. There aren't as many, you know, refinishers of furniture. And trying to train those people to have that craft again. You know, I hope there's a way that we, certainly as a country, can do that, to bring back some of that. Because it's just, it's hard to get something, you know, upholstered.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And, you know, for furniture, if you've got the frame, if you've got the wooden frame, there's nothing that you can't do. And some of the old Howard chairs, I mean, they've been just going for forever, but that you just never should let them die.
And it goes to sustainability.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so important.
Yeah, you maybe can't use horsehair quite as much. I mean, I'm not sure. And we have to be so careful now with leathers and everything else like this. I mean, there are a lot of different constraints, but at the same time, good upholsterers are worth their weight in gold. And yeah, we need to get the young ones actually really helping. So yeah, that's quite true. I completely agree with you.
Okay, anyone else before we get to tonight's exciting drawing? Hello.
I'd forgotten about that.
Well,
yes.
So Kit very generously donated an incredible night's stay at the Warren Street, including dinner and breakfast the next morning, and it helped us to raise some additional money for scholarships. So I thank you again for that.
No, pleasure.
Do you want to draw the winning?
How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this?
I hope the person's here because I don't know.
I know, that's right. I mean, really. Can you open it?
Okay.
Just to show that there's...
Okay. Okay. So, right, Mary?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay, so it looks like the last name is Tillman and the first name is
Marion.
Yes?
Yes!
Oh! Come. Fantastic. Stand up. Stand up. Oh my God. Congratulations.
Bravo.
Your life is about to be transformed.
Oh,
we will
so good.
Yes. Well, exactly. I mean, talk about making some new friends. You're going to be very, very popular.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Paige,
we will get you all the information that you need.
Yeah.
But
yeah. We've got Paige, we've got Isabel, we've got Dorina and Geneva.
Oh my gosh, there's an array of people here who are going to welcome you with open arms.
Yeah.
Now Kit is very kindly going to, if anyone wants to get one of Kit's books that's in the back of the house. But will you please join me in thanking the remarkable Kit Kemp? And for students in the room, as you all pursue your design careers, may you forever stay as enthusiastic and as wide-eyed and excited and as hypnotic as Kit Kemp. That is what I wish for you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
And sadly, this is the last